Right, the 2014 FIFA World Cup kicks off in Brazil in 5 weeks. Let's take a look at the trailer to Imagina na Copa, a documentary film by Yazeed Kamaldien. It explores protests in Brazil against the upcoming month-long FIFA World Cup. It also features voices of residents in a favela in Rio de Janeiro, claiming that their government wants to evict them in a clean-up campaign ahead of the soccer tournament and the Olympic Games planned for that city in 2016.
Do you think the Soccer World Cup will improve your life?
No way.
The World Cup won't improve my life anyway.
But I saw everything that I need to see. The violence of the police. They are very violent.
Certamente triste porque não é Estado que vai interromper ou alguém que vai interromper.
So, asking the question, do you think the Soccer World Cup will improve your life? Yazeed Kamaldien jumps straight to the heart of the story behind some of the reasons for the unrest that we've been hearing of coming from Brazil. Every other day there's a report on protests, sometimes violent, sometimes not, of police setting up camp in favelas, etc. Yazeed has just jetted into Johannesburg on a whirlwind tour going from screening to screening of his short film. Yazeed, thank you very much for joining us, and we really appreciate your time.
I'm glad to be here.
Yazeed, you were in Brazil and you'd gone there to capture stories, file them, send them in, and then you ended up shooting this film. What prompted you to do that?
While I was doing coverage of the Soccer World Cup preparations, there were of course a lot of protests, and I was doing reporting for media, traditional media newspapers in Sweden and South Africa. And I also was doing video while I was, at the protests. And then it hit me that the story has to get out. The footage needs to be seen. The protests got violent at some point. And then I just felt like I needed to follow the story, and that's what I did. And now I've got a film and I'm showing it in different places. So
what actually is the film about? If you can give us a quick synopsis so that people that haven't had a chance to see it yet would want to go see it.
First up, it's not an activist film. Okay, I'm not an activist, I'm a storyteller. This film is about the voices for and against the Soccer World Cup. So I go to protests, I speak to ordinary citizens, I even go to a favela. I stayed in a favela, by the way, in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah, it's possible.
So staying in a favela, because
I must just add quickly that
yes.
I do also speak to officials.
Oh, you spoke to officials as well?
Right.
So you spoke to both sides. And
yes, I just wanted to make sure that I add that in the same breath.
It comes out in the docu, I'm sure. But we'll see it when we watch the whole thing. It's a 33-minute long film, right?
It's a 33-minute film.
So now here's a quick one. Staying in a favela, and you're from Cape Town. Would you say it's similar to staying in a squatter camp on the edge of Delft, for example, or such? Is it the same thing?
Definitely. The only difference I would say is that some favelas are a bit more developed inside the houses. So I mean, of course, being a journalist and sort of documenting what's happening in my city, I see a lot of poverty as well, right? I must say that some of the houses in the favelas were of course a bit more developed, but the surrounds,
yes.
It's very much a messy kind of no straight roads. It's just like everything is just sort of like piled on top of each other, and people live there.
And poverty is relative.
Definitely, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, you still don't own the house. You might own the TV, the couch, the bed. You don't own the land, you don't own the house. You still don't have all the basic facilities that qualifies for, like. So
what actually is happening in Brazil? How much time did you spend in Brazil as you shot this film?
I was there for 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
And what actually is happening there? Because I've been covering it a bit on the channel with reports coming out of protests. Earlier on today, we heard about a camera person that was shot. Somebody was killed, or a toilet bowl was thrown in them from the stands in a stadium, that kind of stuff. Is it as serious and as bad as all that?
Well, people are dying. That's very serious,
yes.
And apart from that, we also have the military police patrolling the streets. And that's sort of like going to be amped up a bit when it comes to the World Cup, because obviously Brazil wants to make this as safe as possible for foreigners, for tourists coming in. The protests are as a result of frustration and anger from a lot of citizens. You know, yes, there are many Brazilians who will go to the stadiums and who will watch the soccer tournament. They will watch the soccer matches rather. Brazil is a country of 191 million people. It's the biggest country in South America. It's a football-loving nation. You know, in the same breath though, you know, it's also a developing country. It's a country with a lot of poverty. Everything is on a bigger scale there. You know, as a South African, I see poverty, but when I go there, I see poverty.
Right. So you spoke to officials as well, and what is it that they're telling you about how they see all of this panning out?
Yeah, so the officials gave me the official view. The World Cup's going to be fine, we're developing our cities, everything's on track. But just, when was it, like last month, Jerome Valke from FIFA was in town. He was here and there was an African football event, and he was saying on Metro FM it was, I still listened to it, and he was saying that 2 of the stadiums are not yet done, including the main stadium for the kickoff match in Sao Paulo.
Corinthians.
Yeah, so like, you know, you have to just wonder, I myself wonder what is going on.
So here's a quick one. Have any Brazilians seen this particular film?
Yes, they have.
And what kind of responses are you getting from them?
Very positive. People are saying, you know what, you've gone in there and you've brought us back a very positive, not a positive, sorry, a true reflection of what's happening in our country. They thank me for that, you know. But they are also despondent about the World Cup, and they say, we wish it wasn't like this. We wish there weren't protests. With us, everybody was happy. We were like in the World Cup heaven of, you know, like things were going smoothly, people were going out into the street and really welcoming foreigners. That will happen likely in Brazil. You know, it's just that there will also be protests.
Right, so what next for you?
Well, right now I'm so caught up in screenings, you know. My work has often had a very political dimension. I was the production manager on Miners Shot Down, the film about Marikana. So I'll probably continue with work that brings about public consciousness. You know? Right.
And lastly, in terms of like your experience as being a South African you were around in 2010, right?
Yes, I was.
And you just touched a little bit on it, and like the positivity that came out from the general populace, opposite, basically going totally opposite to what's going on in Brazil. What's the difference for you?
Well, I think we just bought the hype, you know. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. South Africa bought the hype of the FIFA World Cup. I know there are many pros to it, you know, but one of the cons, for example, is we're sitting with a lot of debt. I'm from Cape Town. Cape Town Stadium loses R1 million every week, you know, just on maintenance, just making sure the grass is the right height, the staff is paid, the toilets are flushing. You know, one needs to talk about legacy as well. And for me as a South African citizen and someone who's traveled to Brazil, my film questions that legacy.
I want to thank you so much for shooting the film, and we do hope that you get really good screenings and good responses, and promote the work that you do.
Sure. People can find me on like Facebook and just come watch my film.
Right,
Twitter,
we'll put it out on our Twitter feed. I'll get it from you, put it out on our Twitter feed so people can get it.
Thank you.
Yazeed, thank you very much.
Thanks.